Hey everybody, Doa from Ice Cave Radio here. Jump to Lightspeed, it's coming in just a couple weeks. Fantasy Flight Games was kind enough to send us here at Ice Cave Radio the Spotlight decks, among some other things. So I thought what I would do is go through each Spotlight deck, take a look at what is in the deck, first of all, and then go through how to play it, right? I mean, if you're the type of player that's a little bit newer to the game, I think these are pretty great as far as getting a product that's a little bit higher level than the two-player starters we've had in the past. A little bit more complicated, but not so much so that it's going to be hard to play. That said, Han Solo has a pretty crazy ability. I think, though, that the deck is well tailored around that. So we'll take a look at it, go through, figure out how to play it. Let's rip it. Now, I know we have to do both sides, right? Maybe we do, maybe we don't. Let's see. It's in the top. We've got this stuff. And then the bottom is where you get the deck itself out of. Let's do that. And then we'll go over what's in the deck, and then we'll go over the cards themselves. There we go. So, in the deck, we have, first of all, our token sheet here. These are 1s, 5s, 10s. We've got your initiative token right here, and then the epic action token here. After you flip your leader, you'll know that you can't do it anymore. So, good set of basic tokens for you to use in case you need that. That's right there. We've got the deck itself, which we'll get into in just a moment, but it also comes with a brand new booster pack of Star Wars Unlimited. So I guess we got to open it, right? I mean, no choice. We have to see if we get the showcase, right? Some sort of Hyperfoil Legendary, maybe? Let's see. Showcase. Nope. It's Admiral Holdo, though. Okay, so this is our Resistance trait leader. Lets us give a Resistance unit or a unit with a Resistance upgrade, a +1/+1 for the phase. So kind of a buffing leader, sort of like our Heroism Wat Tambor to a certain extent. Going to be interesting leader to play. City in the Clouds. Ooh, very cool. Nice look at Bespin there. The art for the base has just been so great, but that's one of your basic Vigilance bases. We have our Quasar. I don't know why that was so hard to say. Quasar TIE Carrier. On attack, create a TIE Fighter token. So decent stats for that. Punch it. Attack with the vehicle unit. Gets +2/+0 for the attack. All right, sure. Indoctrinated Conscript. Basic pilot there. 1 for 1, 2. We've got a Guerrilla Soldier. Indirect damage and some stats. Focus Fire. Get some direct damage done in the air. Determine to recruit. Out the airlock. A little bit of removal there. Eager Escort Fighter. Some ambush. First Order Stormtrooper. Power on the ground, some more removal with face-off, essentially. Well, not removal, but more fighting, I guess. Page Tico, another pilot that deals, that gives out upgrades, gives out experience. Boshek, there he is, looks kind of nervous. He's like, keep that guy with lightsaber away from me. When players an upgrade, discard 2 cards from your deck, return each of those cards with an odd cost in your hand. I got a feeling we're going to see him again very soon. And we have the best art in the game, Snap Wexley. They did you dirty, Snap. I'm so sorry. The next Resistance card you play this phase costs 1 less. He does make stuff cheaper. That's pretty good. Played as a unit / on attack. And then when played as an upgrade, so as a pilot, search the top 5 cards of your deck for a Resistance card, reveal it, and draw it. So actually a pretty good rare. Very, very versatile, honestly, and pretty useful if you're playing that Resistance package. But man, I don't know about that face. I don't think I can get it close. Oh my goodness. What is wrong, Rex? Or what is wrong, Mr. Snap? That's like I just got in the X-Wing and that breakfast burrito is not sitting well. That's what I'm seeing right there. All right, well, there's Snap Wexley. As a foil First Order Stormtrooper, looks pretty cool. Kind of looks like a disco thing now. I mean, that's my best beatboxing. I'm sorry. All right, let's move into the deck itself. Let's check it out. Paper packaging, again, always a plus, I think, in this day and age. And we've got, first of all, our leader, right? Han Solo, never tell me the odds. And this entire leader is based on a pun, which I kind of love. That's kind of wonderful. As an action, exhaust the leader, reveal the top card of your deck, then attack with a unit. If the revealed card and that unit have different odd costs, that unit gets +1 for this attack. So, all right, that's a lot to unpack here, right? Now, let's look at the first part. You do get to peek at the top card of your deck. That in itself can be a useful thing. You can do this for free. Just look at whatever card's coming next. Just simply having that knowledge will help you make better decisions on your turn because you know potentially what you're going to be drawing. So that right there, I think, is a pretty good ability, everything else aside. But then we have, if the revealed card and the unit you're attacking with, have different odd costs, that unit gets +1 for the attack. So what we're going to be looking at in this deck is maybe ways to sort of tailor the top card of your deck to help this go off more often, right? Or at least have a knowledge of what's on the board, what's in your hand, what's in your trash, to know what the odds are of being able to flip it and get the +1 out of it. So is this a little bit more tricky of a leader to play? I would say out of the two Spotlight decks, absolutely it is. But could it be really fun? Absolutely it would. Let's flip it here. So on 5 resources, it does flip. So it does flip 1 resource earlier than the Boba Fett Spotlight leader. Han Solo can be a 3/7 on the ground, so fairly beefy. 7 is a lot of health. And then if you put him on a ship as a pilot, or on a vehicle, I should say, when deployed as an upgrade for each friendly unit or upgrade that has an odd cost, ready a resource. So, for as tricky as his leader side ability is to get working sometimes, I think the flip ability has a huge impact, right? That makes up for it, even if you don't get much use out of the other one, right? Because for each friendly unit upgrade that has an odd cost, ready a resource. So that's potentially a lot of free resources in a turn, right? Where you spend everything, you spend 3, 4, you flip him, you've got a lot of stuff on the board, you ready a bunch, and you play a bunch more. So this could be kind of like a big, overwhelming turn if you do it in the right way. So based on this leader, and I haven't looked at the card list in this deck yet, so I'm going to be discovering it along with you, but based on the leader, I'm looking for a deck that lets me get a lot of things out that will stay safe on the board. I want to build a large board to have a giant impactful flip turn. Maybe some drawing in there, some removal. We know Cunning has a lot of bounce to it, so that's what I'm looking for here. But either way, very, very interesting leader to build a Spotlight deck around. I'm surprised by the choice, but it is cool. Now we have Command as the aspect there, Echo Base, pretty cool. So it's going to be Cunning, Command, yellow, green. We've got our experience tokens, upside down. We've got our experience and shield tokens. Man, the shield art is just so beautiful, isn't it? I'll say it again. I want to play out of this. Fantasy Fight, please. And this is the I think from the Resistance show, if I recall correctly, if I recognize those ships. So we got our experience and shield tokens. So let's take a look at what we've got. Okay, Clone Deserter. So this is a good start, I think. Cost 1. I've got a feeling everything in this deck, it looks like everything in the deck is going to be odd cost. So 1 cost here, 2, 3, restore 1. So it does heal your base when it attacks. That's kind of nice. And then Bounty, draw a card. So if your opponent takes out this unit, they'll get to draw a card. So there's a little bit of a downside, but a 2/3 for 1 is very, very strong, just in general, especially if you can play 2 of those. And I think we're probably going to see 3. Yep, so there's going to be 3 of those. Something to keep in mind with this Clone Deserter as well is that if we looked at the Boba Fett list, if we want to think about how the Spotlight decks match into each other, the Boba Fett list does extra indirect damage. So you'll be potentially taking another damage here, another damage there that you can put on your base, and this guy lets you heal it right back. So I do like that the Spotlight decks, while being, kind of decent into a lot of things, are also built to sort of interact with each other as well. That's kind of neat. So we got Greedo next. Great card from the first set in the game. Just a 3/1, and then you've got that nice ability that says when defeated, you can discard a card from your deck. If it's not a unit, deal 2 damage to a ground unit. So you're rolling the dice a little bit here, but Han Solo is all about gambling anyway, so this is a way to do a little bit more damage on the ground, and also a 3/1 for 1 is pretty strong too. Nien Nub, this is our first rare here in the deck, I suppose. On the ground, he's a 1/2 for 1. This unit gets +1/+0 for each other friendly pilot unit and upgrade. So pilot unit and upgrade. That means pilots that are on the ground with him and pilots that are attached as upgrades in ships. He will be buffed by that. So potentially a good amount of damage when he comes out. And then if he lives. And then as a pilot, you can pay 1 for a 1/2 upgrade on a ship, and then attached unit gets +1/+0 for each other friendly pilot unit and upgrade. So just kind of buffs based on how wide you go. So I think we're going to see a deck that's going to go pretty wide here. We're going to put this down in the rare line, I guess. R2-D2. Okay, here's another uncommon. 1 for a 1/4 on the ground, and then piloting 0. So check that out. Always remember the piloting cost is different from the unit cost, or oftentimes it is. But this one costs 0. It's a free upgrade. This upgrade can be played on a friendly vehicle unit with a pilot on it. Attached unit gains, you may play or deploy one additional pilot on this unit. So what this all boils down to is that R2-D2 can be put on a ship that already has a pilot for free, which is great. Just a nice +1/+1 buff. Or when you put them on a ship first, you can still play a pilot on it. So it's just a nice little free +1/+1 buff to a ship. Otherwise, having a 1/4 on the ground is sometimes useful too. So that's a nice addition to the ground there. We have Dagger Squadron Pilot, 1 for a 2/1. A lot of 1 costs, if you notice here. So we are definitely trying to go wide here, which again, Han Solo, the flip ability lets you ready resources for every odd cost you've got out on the board. So again, it looks like we're going pretty wide. 2/1 on the ground and +2/+1 in the air for the same cost. So you've got 3 of those. All right. Now we're going to our ships, I guess, to Cartel Turncoat. So this is another one with a bounty draw card. So you are kind of fueling your opponent's hand a little bit here with this. But again, having a 2/3 is just really strong. 2/3 in the air for 1, such a strong first turn play. So if you think about doing something like this as your first 2 resource turn, right? A Cartel Turncoat into a Dagger Squadron Pilot. That means that on the second turn, you're going to have a 4/4 in the air. That's a serious amount of damage and trading potential. So no, don't scoff at this. This I think all these 1-drops are going to make for some very, very aggressive starts to this deck in terms of going wide. Same thing with the Wolfpack Escort. When played, you may return a friendly non-leader, non-vehicle unit to its owner's hand. So what this is going to be really useful for is, say again, go back to that first turn. You ended up having to play your Dagger Squadron Pilot on the ground as a 2/1. This comes out and it lets you bounce it back to your hand, right? And then you can play it as a pilot. Or you can do something like, Dagger Squadron Pilot is on the ground, attacks for 2 damage to your opponent's base. Then you play Wolfpack Escort, bounce him back to your hand. Then you pay 1 more and attach it to the Wolfpack Escort, or even better, attach it to a ship that's readied and get two swings out of this 2 damage. So already we've got some nice little combos going on in here. I like that. Wolfpack Escort is a great addition to this. Oh, and I know this guy. It's Admiral Akbar. This is from the first set. This is one of my favorite cards in the game. 3 for a 1/4. He's got Restore 1, and when played, you may deal damage to a unit equal to the number of units you control in its arena. I think that's pretty great, right? Because he can come out and just be removal, and then you get a little bit of Restore on top of that. So again, I think something that's well matched into the Boba, but also just a decent, little addition to the deck in general. Huyang, another interesting one. 3 for a 2/4. When played, choose another friendly unit. While this unit is in play, the chosen unit gets +2/+2. So this buffs a lot of your small 1-drops from turn number 1. It says friendly unit, so you can absolutely pick a ship in space with this guy as well. And at 4 health, he is a little bit difficult to remove. So this is a unit I actually run 1 of in my Wat Tambor list. I think it's pretty solid overall, and probably a good addition. We've got an uncommon here, Leia Organa. 5 or 3 rather for a 3/4, Restore 1. So we're seeing too there's a good trend of Restore 1 in this deck as well. So you're going to be healing back a little bit here and there. And then when played, you may attack with a pilot unit or upgrade. I'm sorry, let me start over. When played, you may attack with a pilot unit or a unit with a pilot on it. It gets +1 and gains Restore 1 for this attack. So when played, she lets you, buff an attack with another one of your units in the deck, and then also restore a little bit too. So a little bit of surprise bonus healing. We get 2 Leias, it looks like. Ezra Bridger, another really, really nice odd-costed card in the game. 3 for a 3/4, great stats already. And then when this unit completes an attack, so that's basically attacks and lives through it, look at the top card of your deck. You may play it, discard it, or leave it on top of your deck. So that's a really, really nice way to essentially have a quote-unquote larger hand size, because the top card in your deck lets you do that. Now remember, Han Solo's ability lets us look at the top card of the deck as well, so you can use this potentially with a different unit, then attack with and then maybe there's another way in this deck to adjust where that card is, or you can use this to maybe get rid of a card that isn't going to work with the thing that you want to use with Han Solo's leader ability, right? Because remember, they need to have different odd costs. So say you've got a 3-cost ship that you want to attack with. You attack first with Ezra. You see that the top of your deck is a 3-cost, card, and you're like, all right, well, I can either play it or I can just discard it, right? You can get that out of the way to maybe have a better chance for Han Solo's ability to work. So I think Ezra is a decent little bit of synergy for this too, and there's 2 of those. All right, a lot of stuff on the ground in this deck. Boshek, I said we'd see him again soon. Piloting comes out for 1 less, so 2 for a 1/2 upgrade. When played as an upgrade, discard 2 cards from your deck, return each of those cards with an odd cost to your hand. Now, since this deck has entirely odd costed cards in it, it's just straight up draw 2, So that's pretty good for 2. Pay 2, draw 2, and get a 1/2 upgrade on a ship. That's pretty awesome. Now, you need a ship to be able to do this, right? He doesn't give you this if you play him on the ground, but as long as you have a ship out, you can get this. He's a 3 for a 3/4 on the ground too, which is not bad, but you definitely want to try to play him as a ship upgrade if possible. We're running out of room here, so I'm going to start putting ground units on the lower level here. Blue Leader, 3 for a 3/3 in the air. Ambush, which is always nice to have. And then when played, you may pay 2. So you could pay a potential of 5 when you play this. If you do, move this unit to the ground arena and give 2 experience tokens to it. So this again is Blue Leader, is one of the fighters at the Battle of Scarif. Came down through the shield aperture through the gate and was shooting stuff down at ground level, right? So I like the theme here with this, that you can pay 5 and essentially get a 5/5 on the ground out of it as well. Again, with ambush. So you can ambush in space or the ground. I think this is a really, really nice card with a pretty versatile set of uses at different points in the game. And here we have Shuttle Tydirium. Hey, it's a Death Star in the background. Is that the first time we've seen the Death Star in art for this game? Oh, no, it's in a couple other ones, but I'm still waiting for that Death Star card. 3 for a 2/4. On attack, discard a card from your deck. If it has an odd cost, you may give an experience token to another unit. So, again, something that's always going to work with this deck. If you were playing Han with other stuff, you could, check first, right, with his ability. So, not bad. We're going to get 3 of those. So, again, getting some experience out there. So, we've got a nice combination, too, of playing cheap, relatively weak stuff, but then having ways to buff it up as well. Death Space Skirmisher, 3 for a 3/3 in space. When played, if you control another space unit, you may exhaust a unit. So, just a nice way to prevent your opponent from attacking into something. It's not bad. Just 1 of those, it looks like. And then we've got 3 of the Millennium Falcon. This is one of our either starter or special or whatever you want to call it, really. Cards, 3 for a 3/4. You may play or deploy 1 additional pilot on this unit. This unit gets +1 for each pilot on it. Now, I want to direct your attention back to R2-D2 here, because you can use R2-D2 to actually get 3 pilots on this, right? You play R2-D2 first, second, whatever, and that lets you put another pilot on it. And then you can go up to the additional pilot this one would give you anyway. So you can end up with a total of 3 pilots on it, which gives +3. So this can potentially be a 6/4 plus whatever the stats your pilots are giving it. So this ship could get massive. So definitely keep that in mind when you're thinking about playing it. We'll just put that down the rare row. We've got a Chewbacca as another one. Chewbacca is another one of our starters, spotlight, special, whatever you want to call them, rarity cards. 5 for a 5/6 on the ground with the ability of this unit can't be defeated or returned to hand by enemy card abilities, which is pretty great by itself. But as a pilot, 3 for a 3/3, and also has that attached unit gains. This unit can't be defeated or returned to hand by enemy card abilities. So he doesn't protect himself as an upgrade on a ship, so they could still use upgrade removal on him when you put him in there as a pilot, but they can't just, vanquish the ship or something like that. So he does give a lot of durability. It is +3 for 3, so that is a decent cost to stats ratio. And just again, the protection he gives the ship that he's attached to, the vehicle, I should say. I keep saying ship, but I mean vehicle he's attached to is going to be good. So I think we're going to see Chewbacca in a good amount of decks as well. Yes, Clone Commander Cody, another Ice Cave Radio reveal card. 5 for a 4/4, Overwhelm, Coordinate. Each other friendly unit gets +1/+1 in Overwhelm. I think it's perfect in this deck. You're going to have a lot of stuff on the board, ideally. You're going to go pretty wide here, so he buffs all of it, gives it all Overwhelm. Coordinate shouldn't be a problem to get online because you're going to nearly always have enough resources out there to make it work. Keep in mind, too, that he is a 5 cost, so that means that you can play him the same turn you flip Han Solo. So you flip Han as a unit, that adds another unit for Coordinate. So that means between the two, you only need 1 other unit out to turn that on. But when you flip Han, ideally you're going to be getting a lot more resources back to then play more things. Or maybe you play Commander Cody at the end, or maybe you Cody and then play, into blue leader, right? With the resources you get back from flipping Han. And then suddenly you've got an ambush that has +1/+1 and overwhelm. So I think Cody has some really nice synergies with this deck. That's a great include. It's a one of, but still, that's good. And then we've got the Mandalorian, double cunning here. So if you play him as a unit on the ground, you're going to end up paying 7 because this is not a double cunning deck. We have cunning, command, and heroism between the leader and base, but his piloting cost is different. It's 2 and only requires 1 cunning. So you're going to want to only really play him as a pilot 9 times out of 10. It says when played as an upgrade, exhausts an enemy unit in this arena. So +3/+1 for 2, and you get to exhaust something. That's a pretty great deal, I would say. All right, running out of space here, but we've gotten to the events. Tandem Assault. Attack with a space unit if you do attack with a ground unit, and that ground unit gets +2/+0 for this attack. Very nice. So I almost feel like we've got a little bit of Battle of Scarif synergy here between this and the blue leader, right? But you're gonna be a little bit more ground heavy with this deck. This is another way to just get more mileage out of these small units. So I do like that. And we're gonna have 2 of those. Okay, cool. Shoot First, another old classic from set 1, attack with a unit. It gets +1/+0 for this attack and deals its combat damage before the defender. So really, really nice card that lets you trade with a unit and also keep your unit alive if you take out their unit, because if you deal your combat damage first and their unit dies, then you just don't take any damage back on your unit and it lives, right? Don't forget too that you don't need to attack into a unit with this. So if you're 1 damage shy of winning the game, you can use this to get that extra point of damage to an attack to base. So do not forget about that. We've got 3 Waylay, it looks like. Return a non-leader unit to its owner's hand. I think that's pretty strong. In Star Wars Unlimited, if you return a unit to its owner's hand, the upgrades that are attached to it are destroyed, are defeated. So if you want to get rid of a pilot, you can return that ship to their hand and the pilot just goes away. So I think that's a good card for this deck and also just for the set in general. And then we have our final card in the second to final. We have Never Tell Me the Odds. This is one of our other starter cards, spotlight cards, whatever you want to call it. Discard 3 cards from an opponent's deck and 3 cards from your deck. Deal damage to a unit equal to the number of cards with an odd cost discarded this way. So you're going to get at least 3 damage out of this from the Han Solo Spotlight deck. And, say you get 1 or 2 from your opponent's side of things as well. That's going to be potentially 5, 6, even 4 damage out of this is going to be really, really strong. So this is a great little piece of removal for Cunning. And, it's tailor-made for this deck. I think people are going to be very happy with it. And 3 of those, of course. And then we have, all right, it's a trap. If opponent controls more space units than you, ready each space unit you control. So, I think this is okay. I think, this is potentially something, to be fair, this could potentially be a game-ending card, right? If your opponent doesn't think you have it, they ignore your units in space. They have more. You can just be like, surprise, and get double attacks out of everything. So this could be game-ending. I think in a lot of situations, you're going to be fighting for your life if your opponent has more ship units than you, and that they're going to not let your ship units live for very long. So you might only be readying, 1 ship or something. But, say you ready it and then put a pilot on it and buff it, make a big attack. It's a one of. I don't think this one's going to pay off too often, but I think it is potentially a very good card in the right situation. And finally, we have Commandeer. All right. Take control of a so cost 5, by the way. Take control of a non-leader vehicle unit that costs 6 or less without a pilot on it. If you do, at the start of the next regroup phase, return that unit to its owner's hand. So you can just straight up take a vehicle from them, use it use it because you get to ready it, and then it goes back to their hands. So kind of a long way to get back to their hand. The only catch is that they can't have a pilot on it, but I think that's pretty good overall. So nice little way to mess with your opponent in the end there. But let's talk about the deck as a whole. So generally a little bit less space heavy than the Boba list. You're a little bit more ground heavy. But the basic premise is this. You want to go wide and then try your best to buff, to protect your units, and then get ready for that Han Solo flip turn where you can ready a number of resources equal to the number of odd costs of things you have on the board, which again, everything in the deck is odd cost, so everything you have out is going to count for that. And then that lets you go even wider. So you're really just trying to overwhelm your opponent with this deck. Now, let's talk about mulligans here, because it gets a little bit tricky when you have so many cards that you can play on your first turn, right? Normally we say, all right, you're just looking for something you can play on your first turn. That's a lot of times all you're looking for with a mulligan. In this case, you can be a little bit more choosy. You're going to want to be looking for cards more like the Cartel Spacer, Clone Deserter, Greedo for some of your first turns, and less for things like Wolfpack Escort, R2-D2, Dagger Squadron Pilot. Those three are just not going to be as impactful if you're playing them that early. I guess a Nien Nub as well, because you want a little bit of setup to make that work. So, if you mulligan and you have like just these are more support one costs, and these are more, kind of like early game pressure one cost. So you're going to want to look for Cartel Turncoat, Clone Deserter, and Greedo in your opening hand, I think, for the most part. Beyond that, you're going to want to look for cards that can support that stuff, right? I think Blue Leader is a good card to just have in hand because it can be very good on resource turn 5, as well as resource turn 3. You're going to want to look for things like Leia a little bit later when you have a few things out that you can then attack with. You're going to want to look for a ship that you can protect and put some pilots on as well. So the basic idea is as you go wide, you're going to want to create opportunities where your opponent is trading into some of your stuff just to try to manage the amount of things you have out right before your Han flip turn. And then you're going to surprise them with something like Millennium Falcon and a few pilots. You just go tall, right? There's the concepts in card game of going wide and going tall. So it's very well demonstrated in Star Wars Unlimited, right? Where you can either go wide, play a bunch of units on the board, or you can go, tall, and you can do like literally a tall card where suddenly you've got Millennium Falcon with all of this stuff going on, right? So I think knowing when to go wide and when to go tall is going to be really essential. If you're playing against Vigilance, for instance, they have a lot of good single target removal. Same with playing against Cunning. So in that situation, you'll probably want to focus on going wider on the board. Now, if you're playing against something like Command, Aggression, stuff that is generally better at doing a little bit of damage, doing some buffing, then it's a little bit safer in some cases to go tall because it's less likely that they're going to have a card that removes a unit just straight up, once it gets big enough. So keeping those kind of basic tenets in mind, I think you're going to be able to have find some success with this. This deck as well, for thinking about upgrades, you're going to want to think about including the Han Solo 7-cost unit from set 1. That's, again, an odd cost unit that works really well, with this. What else? The older Millennium Falcons are going to be fine, both the 3-cost Legendary from set 1 and the 5-cost Smuggle one from set 2. So both Millennium Falcons work well for that. You're going to want to look at upgrading to, I think, 4 Admiral Akbars is pretty reasonable, 4 Nien Nubs, and I would say maybe 2 Huyangs. I don't think you need to go for the full set with that. You're going to want to get another Blue Leader. Basically, just fill out some of these better cards in here. Maybe another Leia, another Ezra, maybe another Boshek or something like that. Although Boshek, because of the conditions, I think maybe just 2 of is fine. Otherwise, Cody and Mandalorian are 2 you could think about including as well. And I would maybe look at a sideboard that includes a little bit more bouncing. So maybe some Spare the Target, something like that. Bamboozle, which exhausts and remove upgrades. I think that's very good in this set in particular because you can get rid of some pilots that way. So if you're thinking about adding a sideboard, those are cards to possibly include. Now Bamboozle does cost 2, so you are introducing a little bit of even cost, but I don't necessarily think Han Solo as a leader is going to be bad if you introduce some even costs into your deck. It just creates a little bit more variance, right? Where you could just kind of hit an unfortunate, top deck or whatever. But I think some cards are good enough to be worth it. But that said, I think this deck looks very intriguing. I'm very curious how it plays out if you really can go wide and tall and kind of make that choice when the game calls for it, like I'm talking about. Either way, I think it's probably going to be a pretty good matchup into the Boba Spotlight Leader as well. They should play fairly evenly. Again, a big part of the reason why is because this deck also has a good amount of Restore, which kind of counteracts Boba's ability in doing some indirect damage. But either way, I think it looks like a ton of fun. So go out, play some games. Let me know what you think. Like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments if you agree, what cards you would add to this, and if you played it, how you're enjoying it, or I guess if you played it, once it comes out in a couple weeks, how you're enjoying it. And if you have any questions, let me know too. But that's going to be it for now. Thanks for watching, everybody. Take care.